Welcome. You just clicked on a video that 98% of English learners will ignore forever, scroll past without thinking, or watch for 30 seconds before giving up. But you didn't. You're still here. And that already tells me something is fundamentally different about you. The question is, will you just watch this video like entertainment and forget it by tomorrow? Or will you let it completely transform how you approach English learning forever? Because what I'm about to share with you isn't another grammar lesson disguised as motivation. It's not another repeat after me tutorial that promises miracles in 30 days. It's not another course trying to sell you false hope. This is the raw, uncomfortable, life-changing truth about why you're still struggling with English after months or years of trying, and why some people become fluent and confident in the same time you've been stuck repeating the same mistakes. You see, from the very first day you started learning English, the system taught you the same broken, outdated formula that has failed millions before you. Study grammar rules for hours. Memorize vocabulary lists that you'll forget next week. Take tests that measure nothing real. Get certificates that impress no one. Practice with apps that gamify learning but don't create speakers. Repeat boring exercises that have no connection to real life. But ask yourself this honest question. Why are you still afraid to speak English in real situations after studying for months or years? While some people become confident speakers without ever opening a traditional textbook, the world tells you to study harder, be more patient, take more courses, buy more books, download more apps, join more classes. But here's the brutal truth. While you're memorizing the difference between past perfect and past perfect continuous, someone else is already speaking confidently with native speakers at work. While you're worried about making grammar mistakes, someone else is building meaningful relationships in English. While you're stuck having the same basic conversations about weather and hobbies, others are giving presentations, negotiating deals, telling jokes, sharing their deepest thoughts, changing their entire life trajectory through English. This is not a small difference anymore. It's not just about learning speed. It's a massive, growing canyon between learners who break through to real fluency and those who stay trapped in intermediate hell forever. And here's what no one wants to tell you. No teacher is coming to save your English. No perfect method is coming to rescue you. No app will magically make you fluent while you sleep. You were trained to learn English like the 98%, using methods that feel safe and organized but slowly kill your natural speaking ability. Methods that create students, not speakers. Methods that produce test takers, not communicators. But here's the truth. No traditional teacher will ever tell you. The 2% who become truly fluent, confident and natural in English learn completely differently. They think differently about mistakes. They practice differently with their time. They approach conversations differently than you've been taught. And if you want to speak English differently than you do now, you must do what 98% of learners are not willing to do. This video is not just about English grammar or vocabulary. It's about confidence that changes how people see you. It's about connection that opens doors you never imagined. It's about opportunities that transform your career, your relationships, your entire future. It's about freedom from the prison of language barriers. It's about choosing a completely different life where English becomes your superpower instead of your weakness. And here's the bonus that makes this even more powerful. While you discover these life-changing secrets about English learning, you're absorbing perfect natural English without even trying. This entire video is written in simple, powerful, emotional English that enters your brain effortlessly. Every sentence you hear is training your mind to think in English patterns. Every phrase is programming your speaking ability. This is not just a lesson you watch and forget. This is a weapon for your mind, your voice, your confidence, your future success. So don't just watch this passively like another YouTube video. Absorb it, live it, breathe it, become it. Because this is what they never taught you in any classroom, any textbook, any traditional course. And now we begin your real English education. Stage 1. Stop learning like everyone else. Let's start with the most dangerous truth that will either offend you or liberate you forever. Suppose you learn English exactly like most people learn English. In that case, you will get exactly what most people get from their English learning: years of study with almost no real progress, mountains of grammar knowledge with zero speaking confidence, perfect test scores with paralyzing fear of real conversations. And what does that look like in real life? Frustration that builds every day, fear of speaking that grows stronger instead of weaker, shame about your accent that makes you avoid important opportunities, staying silent in meetings when you have brilliant ideas, missing job promotions because you can't express yourself clearly, avoiding social situations where English is spoken, living a smaller life than you deserve because language holds you back. But that's the invisible trap of the 98%. They follow the crowd blindly like sheep walking toward a cliff. They never question the methods that failed their parents' generation. They never ask the most important question: is this approach actually working for me? Or am I just hoping it will work someday? Let me paint you a vivid picture that will change how you see English learning forever. Imagine there's a massive classroom with 100 English students inside. They're all sitting quietly, studying thick grammar books, highlighting rules they'll forget tomorrow, memorizing vocabulary lists in alphabetical order, taking notes they'll never review, doing exercises that have no connection to real speaking situations. Meanwhile, outside the classroom, only 2 students are having actual conversations with native speakers. They're making mistakes every few seconds, laughing at their errors, asking, "What does that mean?" 50 times, using wrong grammar but communicating their ideas clearly, learning through real human connection instead of textbook theory. Now, if you're sitting inside that classroom with the 100 students, what do you naturally assume? You assume the 2 students outside are lazy, undisciplined, not serious about learning. You assume the 100 students inside are doing it the right way, the proper way, the way that leads to success. But what if I told you the 100 students inside will still be studying grammar rules 5 years from now, while the 2 outside will be fluent, confident speakers within months? What if the 100 are walking toward perfect test scores but never speaking, and the 2 are walking toward real fluency that changes their lives? That's exactly what happens in real English learning. We automatically copy what schools teach because schools look official. We follow what apps promise because apps look modern. We trust what everyone else is doing because crowds feel safe. We never stop to examine whether these methods actually create the results we want. But here's the reality that will shock you. The 98% are completely addicted to studying English, but terrified of speaking English. They collect grammar rules like trophies, but avoid real conversations like poison. They can explain complex tenses on paper, but can't order food confidently in a restaurant. They know thousands of vocabulary words but can't tell a simple story about their weekend. The 2% have a completely opposite addiction. They're addicted to using English, not just studying it. They collect real conversations, not grammar points. They collect moments of connection, not test scores. They collect confidence through practice, not perfection through theory. The 98% say, I need to study more grammar first before I can speak. The 2% say, I need to speak more now so I can discover which grammar I actually need. The 98% fear making mistakes because mistakes feel like failure. The 2% make mistakes on purpose because mistakes are the fastest path to improvement. Look at any person who became truly fluent in English as an adult. Did they become fluent by sitting in classrooms for years? Did they become confident by memorizing textbooks? Did they develop natural pronunciation by repeating audio lessons? No. They became fluent in coffee shops where they forced themselves to have real conversations. They became confident on phone calls where they had to solve actual problems in English. They developed natural speech patterns by watching movies, listening to music, and mimicking the rhythms of real English speakers. Why did they succeed where others failed? Because they refused to learn like everyone else. They broke the rules. They ignored the traditional path. They trusted their instincts instead of following the crowd. The truth that no one wants to admit is this: studying English feels safe and organized. But it's the safest way to remain an intermediate speaker forever. Real fluency requires breaking traditional rules. True confidence requires making thousands of mistakes in front of real people. Authentic speaking ability requires using English before you feel ready, before you sound perfect, before you know everything. So here's the question that will determine your entire English future. What English learning habit are you doing right now just because everyone else does it? What method are you following without ever asking if it actually produces fluent speakers? What traditional approach are you trusting that might be keeping you trapped in slow progress? What fear are you protecting by staying in the safe zone of textbooks instead of the scary zone of real conversations? Because once you start learning for communication instead of for tests, once you start speaking for connection instead of for perfection, you've already done what 98% of English learners are too afraid to do. And that courage to be different, to learn differently, to practice differently, is exactly what separates the 2% who break through from the 98% who stay stuck. That's what the next stage is all about. Stage 2. Replace perfect grammar with perfect communication. Let me say something that will completely shock every traditional English teacher, every grammar book author, every language school owner. Perfect grammar is not just unnecessary for fluent speaking, it's actually the enemy of fluent speaking. It's the biggest trap. It's the main reason why people study English for years but still freeze up completely in real conversations. This might sound crazy, but listen carefully. Perfect grammar is keeping you stuck, not moving you forward. You see? The 98% live their entire English learning journey chasing an impossible dream called perfection. They create mental prisons for themselves with thoughts like, I'll start speaking when my grammar is completely perfect. I'll join English conversations when I understand every single tense. I'll apply for that international job when my English sounds exactly like a native speaker. I'll give that presentation when I can guarantee 0 mistakes. And so what happens? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not because they're lazy or stupid or lacking talent, but because they're waiting for a level of perfection that doesn't exist. They're waiting for a day that will never come. They're preparing for a test that life will never give them. But here's what the 2% understand that changes everything. Communication beats perfection every single time in the real world. Connection matters more than correction. Getting your message across matters infinitely more than getting every grammar rule right. And here's the shocking truth that will blow your mind. Native English speakers make grammar mistakes constantly, every single day, in every conversation, and they never stop communicating because of it. They say, "Me and John went to the store," instead of, "John and I went to the store." They say, "I could care less," when they mean, "I couldn't care less." They split infinitives, end sentences with prepositions, and mix up who and whom regularly. But do they stop talking? Do they pause mid-sentence to check grammar rules? Do they avoid important conversations because they might make mistakes? Absolutely not, because they understand that language exists for human connection, not for grammar competitions. Let me tell you a true story that will change how you think about English forever. I have a friend named Maria who moved from Mexico to New York with absolutely terrible English. Her grammar was a disaster. She mixed up basic tenses constantly. Her pronunciation was so heavy that people often asked her to repeat herself. Her vocabulary was maybe 500 basic words. But Maria had one simple, powerful rule that saved her English life. I will speak to at least one new person every single day. No matter how bad I sound, no matter how many mistakes I make, no matter how embarrassed I feel. Do you know what happened to Maria? Within 6 months, she was having deep, meaningful conversations about life, philosophy, and dreams. She was making genuine friendships with native speakers. She was getting job interviews and opportunities. Not because her grammar became perfect. It was still full of mistakes. Not because her accent disappeared. It was still clearly Mexican. But because she prioritized human connection over grammatical perfection. Meanwhile, her classmate Roberto spent those same 6 months studying grammar intensively. He took advanced courses, memorized complex rules, got perfect scores on every test, could explain the difference between past perfect and past perfect continuous better than most teachers. But 2 years later, Roberto still couldn't order food in a restaurant without extreme anxiety because he was terrified of making a single grammar mistake in front of strangers. That's the devastating difference between the 98% and the 2%. Roberto represents the 98% who study English. Maria represents the 2% who use English. Roberto learned about English. Maria learned through English. Let's break this down in the simplest possible way. Perfect grammar is when every single sentence follows every textbook rule perfectly. But real communication happens with mistakes. Emotion, gestures, facial expressions, and heart. Perfect grammar impresses teachers in classrooms. Perfect communication changes lives in the real world. Perfect grammar is like a beautiful car that never leaves the garage because the owner is afraid of getting it dirty. Perfect communication is like a beat-up car that takes you everywhere you want to go. Which one would you rather have? The 2% don't wait for perfect sentences before they start expressing their ideas. They use whatever words they know to share whatever feelings they have. They don't apologize constantly for their accent. They embrace it as their unique voice that tells their story. They don't fear grammar mistakes like deadly diseases. They see mistakes as stepping stones, as proof that they're pushing their boundaries, as signs that they're growing. Here's what the 2% do that transforms everything. They focus on clarity, not perfection. They ask themselves, did the other person understand my main message? Not, did I use the subjunctive mood correctly? They measure success by connection achieved, not by errors avoided. If you want real English breakthrough, you must make this mental shift immediately. Stop asking yourself, is my grammar 100% correct? Start asking yourself, am I communicating my thoughts effectively? Stop studying how to speak perfectly. Start speaking imperfectly but powerfully, passionately, authentically. Because here's the truth that will set you free. People remember how you made them feel, not whether you used the correct preposition. They care about your ideas, not your accent. They value your personality, not your perfect grammar. The moment you prioritize communication over perfection, everything changes. Your confidence grows. Your fear shrinks. Your English becomes alive instead of academic. And that's when real fluency begins. Stage 3. Think in English, while others translate everything. Let me ask you something deeply personal about what happens inside your mind when you try to speak English. When you want to express an idea, describe a feeling, or tell a story in English, what exactly happens in your brain? Be completely honest with yourself. Do you first think of what you want to say in your native language? Then translate each word individually into English. Then try to put those translated words together into a sentence that hopefully makes sense. If your answer is yes, then I've just identified the exact reason why you're still struggling with English fluency after months or years of learning. This translation process is not a small problem. It's not just a minor inconvenience. It's a massive barrier that's keeping you trapped in slow, robotic, unnatural English forever. And here's why it's so devastating to your progress. The 98% are completely trapped in what I call translation prison. Every single thought they want to express goes through this exhausting process. Native language, mental translation, English words, speaking attempt. But here's what happens in real conversations. By the time they finish translating their first thought, the conversation has already moved to 3 different topics. The moment has passed. The opportunity to contribute is gone. They become silent observers instead of active participants. But the 2% who achieve real fluency think in a completely different way. Their mental process is direct and immediate. Thought, English expression, speaking. No translation step. No mental gymnastics. No delays. No internal struggle. They think directly in English, which means they can respond naturally to conversations at normal speed. Now, most people hear this and immediately say, "But that's impossible. How can I think in English when it's not my first language? How can I skip my native language when that's how my brain naturally works?" But here's what they don't realize, and this will absolutely blow your mind. You already think in English for many things, and you don't even notice it. You've been doing it for years without recognizing it. When you see a red traffic light, do you think stop, or do you translate stop from your native language? When you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, do you translate each number from your native language, or do the English numbers come directly? When you see McDonald's and think, "I'm hungry," do you translate hungry Or does the English word appear automatically? When you say basic phrases like hello, thank you, excuse me, or how much, do you translate them first or do they come out naturally? When you use your phone and see call, message, or settings, do you translate these words or do you understand them directly? The answer is obvious. For words and phrases you use frequently, your brain has created direct English connections. These English words live in your mind without translation. They've become part of your direct thinking process. The secret to English fluency is expanding this direct English thinking until it covers everything you want to express, not just basic words. It's about building more and more English neural pathways until translation becomes unnecessary. Here's the tragic truth about translation. Every time you translate from your native language to English, you're strengthening the translation habit instead of building direct English thinking. You're training your brain to depend on your native language instead of developing English independence. It's like learning to ride a bicycle but never taking off the training wheels. The training wheels feel safer, but they prevent you from developing real balance. Translation feels safer, but it prevents you from developing real English fluency. The 2% understand this, so they intentionally train their brain to think directly in English. They don't wait for it to happen naturally. They force it to happen through specific practice techniques. They describe their daily activities in English. Now I'm brushing my teeth. The water is cold. I need to buy toothpaste today. They have internal conversations in English. What should I wear today? It's raining, so I need an umbrella. They make plans in English. Tomorrow I have a meeting at 3 p.m. I should prepare my presentation tonight. When they don't know a word, instead of translating from their native language, they describe it using English words they already know. If they can't remember umbrella, they say, the thing that protects you from rain. This builds English creativity instead of translation dependency. The difference is incredible. Translation makes you slow, hesitant, and robotic. Direct English thinking makes you fast, confident, and natural. Translation keeps you connected to your native language. Direct English thinking gives you English independence. If you want to break through to real fluency, you must make this commitment. Start thinking in English for at least 30 minutes every day. Narrate your life in English. Plan in English. Dream in English when possible. The more you think directly in English, the faster you'll escape translation prison forever. Stage 4. Use your phone in English, while others keep everything in their native language. Here's a simple but powerful test that will reveal everything about your commitment to English fluency. Right now, take out your phone and look at it. What language are your phone settings in? What language is your social media in? What language are your YouTube recommendations in? What language is your Netflix interface in? If everything on your phone is in your native language, then you've just discovered why your English isn't improving despite all your studying. You're living in a complete English-free bubble and wondering why you can't breathe English naturally. This might seem like a small detail, but it represents something massive about your approach to English learning. The 98% study English for maybe 1 to 2 hours per day, then spend the remaining 14-16 waking hours completely surrounded by their native language. That's like trying to fill a bucket with water while there's a massive hole in the bottom, but the 2% understand something that changes everything. English fluency isn't created in study time. It's created in living time. It's built through constant natural exposure, not through occasional forced lessons. Think about this logically. How did you become fluent in your native language? Did you study grammar books about your native language for hours every day? Did you take vocabulary tests? Did you practice pronunciation exercises? No. You became fluent in your native language because you were surrounded by it every moment of every day. You heard it when you woke up. You lived in it throughout the day. You fell asleep to it at night. Your brain had no choice but to absorb it naturally. The 2% recreate this natural immersion environment artificially by changing their entire digital life to English. When they wake up, their phone greets them in English. When they check the time, it's displayed in English. When they get notifications, they're in English. When they watch entertainment, it's in English with English subtitles. This creates what I call micro-immersion, hundreds of tiny English moments throughout every single day that add up to massive exposure. Every time you unlock your phone, you're practicing English. Every time you check an app, you're reinforcing English vocabulary. Every time you watch something, you're training your ear to English sounds. Let me give you some shocking numbers. The average person checks their phone 96 times per day and spends over 7 hours looking at screens daily. If all of that screen time is in English instead of your native language, you're getting an extra 7 hours of English exposure every day without any additional study time. That's 49 hours per week. That's over 2,500 hours per year of natural English immersion just from changing your digital environment. Compare that to traditional English classes that give you maybe 100 hours per year of artificial English exposure. But here's what makes this even more powerful. This isn't boring academic English. This is real, living, emotional English. You're learning English while laughing at comedy videos. You're absorbing English while watching exciting movies. You're practicing English while checking social media or playing games. Your brain doesn't feel like it's studying because it isn't studying in the traditional sense. It's just living in English instead of living around English. The 98% treat English like a foreign visitor that they invite into their house for a few hours each week. The 2% treat English like a new family member that moves in permanently and becomes part of their daily life. Here's your immediate action plan to join the 2%. Change your phone settings to English right now. Yes, right now, not tomorrow, not next week. It will feel uncomfortable for a few days. But that discomfort is your brain creating new English neural pathways. Follow English YouTube channels that match your interests. If you love cooking, follow English cooking channels. If you're interested in fitness, follow English fitness influencers. If you enjoy comedy, watch English comedians. You'll learn English while pursuing your passions. Watch English Netflix with English subtitles, not your native language subtitles. This trains your brain to connect English sounds with English text instead of connecting English sounds with native language text. Join English social media groups related to your hobbies. Comment in English. Ask questions in English. Share your thoughts in English. Turn social media from a time waster into an English practice tool. The goal is to make English unavoidable in your daily life. When English becomes the air you breathe digitally, fluency becomes inevitable instead of impossible. Stage 5. Speak to yourself while others stay silent all day. Let me share with you the most powerful English secret that costs absolutely nothing. Requires no special equipment, needs no other people, but changes everything about your fluency journey. Talk to yourself in English every single day. Multiple times per day, without shame, without embarrassment, without caring if anyone thinks you're crazy. The 98% think this idea is absolutely ridiculous. They say things like, "Why would I talk to myself? That makes me look stupid. What's the point if no one is listening? I'll do that when I'm more advanced. I need to practice with real people, not myself." But they completely miss the point, and their misunderstanding keeps them trapped in fear and silence forever. They don't understand that you are someone. You are real people. Your brain is listening. Your confidence is growing. Your muscle memory is developing. Your fluency is building with every word you speak to yourself. Here's what the 2% understand that transforms their English. Self-talk is not just practice. It's the safest, most effective, most available practice you can get. It's practice without judgment, without pressure, without fear, without the need to impress anyone. It's pure English flowing from your thoughts directly to your mouth, building the neural pathways that create automatic speaking ability. The 2% narrate their entire life in English like they're the star of their own English documentary. They describe what they're doing. "Now I'm making coffee. I'm adding 2 spoons of sugar. The coffee smells amazing. I think I'll drink it outside because the weather is beautiful today." They have full conversations with themselves. "What should I wear today? Well, it's raining, so I need something warm. Maybe my blue jacket. Actually, no, the black one looks more professional for my meeting." They practice conversations before they happen. "Hi, nice to meet you. My name is, I'm originally from." "What about you?" They argue with themselves about decisions. "Should I take this job offer? On one hand, the salary is good. On the other hand, the commute is very long." They tell themselves stories about their day. "Today was interesting. First, I went to the grocery store and couldn't find what I needed. Then I met an old friend on the street. We talked for 20 minutes. It was really nice to see her again." Why is this self-talk practice so incredibly powerful? Because it's building your English autopilot system. When you practice expressing your thoughts in English regularly, speaking English becomes automatic instead of effortful. Your brain creates shortcuts between your thoughts and English words. Most people wait for English conversations to magically appear in their life. They sit around hoping that English-speaking opportunities will fall from the sky. But here's the reality. Conversations don't create fluency. Fluency creates conversations. And fluency comes from speaking practice, even when no one else is listening. When you talk to yourself regularly in English, something magical happens in real conversations. The words start coming automatically because you've already practiced expressing similar thoughts hundreds of times. Your brain recognizes patterns and fills in the gaps naturally. Think about it this way. Every professional athlete practices alone before performing with teammates. Every musician practices scales alone before playing with a band. Every actor rehearses lines alone before performing on stage. Why would English speaking be any different? But here's what makes self-talk even more powerful than conversations with other people. You can practice exactly what you need to practice. You can repeat difficult sounds until they become natural. You can experiment with new vocabulary without embarrassment. You can make mistakes and correct them immediately without losing face. The 98% stay silent all day in English, then wonder why speaking feels so difficult and unnatural. The 2% speak English to themselves constantly, so speaking with others feels like a natural extension of something they already do comfortably. Here's your self-talk action plan. Start with 10 minutes of English self-talk every morning. Describe your plans for the day, your feelings about upcoming events, your thoughts about anything interesting. Narrate your activities in English throughout the day. I'm checking my email. This message is important. I should reply immediately. Keep a running commentary of your life in English. Practice conversations in your head or out loud before important English interactions. If you have a job interview, practice introducing yourself, answering common questions, asking your own questions. Talk yourself through problems in English. I need to solve this issue. First, I should understand the problem clearly. Then I should think about possible solutions. The goal is to make English self-talk as natural as thinking. When speaking English to yourself becomes automatic, speaking English to others becomes possible, comfortable, and eventually effortless. Stage 6. Embrace your accent while others hide from theirs in shame. Here's something that will completely change your relationship with English forever. Something that will either liberate you or challenge everything you believe about language learning. Your accent is not your enemy. Your accent is not a problem to solve. Your accent is not something to be ashamed of or to hide from the world. Your accent is your identity. Your accent is your story. Your accent is your superpower waiting to be discovered and embraced. Your accent makes you memorable, unique, and authentically you. But the 98% have been brainwashed into thinking their accent is a disease that needs to be cured. They spend years trying to sound like someone else instead of becoming the best, most confident version of themselves. They're ashamed of where they come from. They think they sound stupid when they actually sound interesting. They avoid speaking opportunities because they don't sound like Hollywood movies or BBC News broadcasts. This accent shame is destroying their confidence and limiting their potential in ways they don't even realize. They whisper when they should speak boldly. They avoid phone calls when they should embrace them. They decline speaking opportunities when they should volunteer enthusiastically. But the 2% have a completely different relationship with their accent. They understand something that changes everything. Your accent is proof that you're brave enough to communicate across cultures. Your accent shows the world that you speak multiple languages, which is incredibly impressive. Your accent tells a story of growth, learning, and global thinking that monolingual people can never tell. Let me give you some examples that will blow your mind and change how you see accents forever. Arnold Schwarzenegger has one of the strongest Austrian accents in Hollywood, and he became the governor of California, one of the most powerful positions in America. Did his accent stop him? Did people refuse to listen to him because he didn't sound American? No. His accent became part of his powerful, memorable personality. Priyanka Chopra has a beautiful Indian accent and conquered both Bollywood and Hollywood. She's married to an international superstar, runs multiple businesses, and is considered one of the most influential women in entertainment. Her accent didn't limit her. It distinguished her. Jackie Chan has a heavy Chinese accent in English, but he became a global icon, making movies worldwide and building an entertainment empire. His accent never stopped him from connecting with audiences everywhere. Shakira has a Colombian accent when she speaks English, but she's sold over 75 million records worldwide and performs for audiences who don't even speak Spanish. Her accent is part of her charm. These people didn't succeed despite their accents. They succeeded because they focused on their message instead of their accent, on their confidence instead of their pronunciation, on their value instead of their voice. Here's the truth that will set you free. Native English speakers have accents too. British people have accents. Australian people have accents. American people from different regions have completely different accents. Southern Americans sound different from Northern Americans. Texas sounds different from New York. London sounds different from Scotland. There is no such thing as no accent. There is no correct way that English must sound. There are only different ways of speaking English, and yours is one of them. The 2% understand that people don't judge you based on your accent. They judge you based on your confidence. They don't avoid you because you sound different. They avoid you if you sound insecure, unsure, or apologetic about who you are. When you speak English with confidence, when you own your voice, when you focus on your message instead of your pronunciation, something magical happens. People stop noticing your accent and start listening to your ideas. They stop focusing on how you sound and start caring about what you're saying. Your accent becomes background music while your personality, intelligence, and value become the main performance. Here's what embracing your accent looks like in practice. Stop apologizing for how you sound. Never say sorry for my English or excuse my accent. Speak clearly and confidently, regardless of your pronunciation. Focus on being understood, not on sounding perfect. When someone asks you to repeat something, don't assume it's because of your accent. Even native speakers need to repeat things sometimes. Say it again with confidence, maybe a little slower or with different words. Use your accent as a conversation starter, not a conversation ender. When people ask where you're from, be proud of your answer. Share something interesting about your culture, your country, your language. Remember that your accent represents something beautiful. The courage to learn, the willingness to grow, the bravery to communicate across linguistic boundaries. That's not something to hide. That's something to celebrate. Stop trying to sound like someone else and start sounding like the most confident, authentic version of you. Because the world doesn't need another copy of a native speaker. The world needs the original, authentic accent and all version of you. Stage 7. Learn from movies and music. While others stick to boring textbooks, the 98% learn English from grammar books written by people who never had a real conversation in their lives. Using examples like, the cat sat on the mat, and John goes to school every day. These textbooks are filled with artificial sentences that no real person would ever say in a real situation. But the 2% learn. English from movies, music, podcasts, and YouTube videos created by people who live and breathe English every single day. They learn from real emotions, real situations, real problems, and real solutions. Which approach sounds more alive to you? Which sounds more connected to the real world where you actually need to use English? When you learn English from entertainment, you're not just memorizing words and rules. You're absorbing culture, emotion, rhythm, context, and life. You're hearing how English actually sounds when people are excited, angry, sad, surprised, confused, or in love. You're learning the difference between formal English and casual English, between polite English and direct English. The 98% memorize conversations like, "How are you?" "I am fine, thank you." "And you?" But no one actually talks like that in real life. Real people say things like, "Hey, what's up?" "Not much, just chilling." "How about you?" "Same here, just trying to survive Monday." Movies and music teach you this real English that textbooks completely ignore. They teach you slang, idioms, cultural references, and natural speech patterns that make you sound like a real person instead of a language learning robot. But here's what makes learning from entertainment even more powerful. You're learning English while having fun. Your brain is relaxed, engaged, and emotionally connected to the content. This Stage 8. Focus on phrases, while others waste time. Memorizing individual words, here, is a critical mistake that keeps English learners trapped in beginner-level communication forever. Learning individual words instead of learning complete phrases and expressions that native speakers actually use. The 98% approach vocabulary like this. Happy equals feliz. Sad equals triste. Angry equals enojado. They memorize isolated words without context, without emotion, without connection to real situations, but in actual conversations, no one says I happy or you sad or he angry. Real people express emotions using complete phrases. I'm over the moon about this opportunity. I'm feeling really down today. That really gets on my nerves. I'm absolutely thrilled. I'm devastated by this news. The 2% collect phrases like precious treasures because they understand that phrases are the building blocks of natural conversation. They learn expressions like, I can't believe it. That makes perfect sense. I'm not entirely sure about that. Let me think about it for a second. You've got a good point there. These complete phrases make you sound instantly more natural, more fluent, more like a real English speaker instead of someone translating word by word from another language. Stage 9. Practice speaking. Every single day, while others practice only when they feel ready. The difference between the 98% and the 2% can be summarized in one simple comparison. The 98% wait for speaking opportunities to appear magically in their life. The 2% create speaking opportunities every single day, whether other people are available or not. The 98% make excuses. I don't have anyone to practice with. There are no native speakers in my area. I can't afford a conversation teacher. I'll start speaking when I join that English club next month. The 2% make opportunities. They practice with themselves in the mirror. They record themselves speaking and listen back. They use language exchange apps to find conversation partners worldwide. They join online English communities. They participate in English forums and comment sections. They practice with AI chatbots. They read English texts out loud. They shadow English audio by repeating everything they hear. The 98% speak English maybe twice a week in their formal English class. The 2% speak English multiple times every single day. Even if it's just reading street signs out loud or explaining their thoughts to themselves while walking. Here's the truth that changes everything. Fluency is not a destination you arrive at after studying enough theory. Fluency is a muscle that you must exercise every single day through actual speaking practice. Stage 10. Become who you were meant to be in English. This final stage is not just about learning a language. This is about becoming the version of yourself who lives without language barriers, who connects with anyone anywhere in the world, who doesn't let fear control their voice or limit their opportunities. You weren't born to stay silent when you have brilliant ideas to share. You weren't born to avoid international opportunities because of language insecurity. You weren't born to let your thoughts die in translation between your mind and your mouth. You were born to express yourself fully, confidently, and authentically in any language you choose to learn. You were born to share your unique perspective with the global community. You were born to use English as a bridge to opportunities, relationships, and experiences that monolingual people can never access. The 98% learn English to pass tests, get certificates, or fulfill academic requirements. They treat English like a school subject that has no connection to their real-life goals and dreams. But the 2% learn English to transform their entire life trajectory. They use English to access global opportunities, international relationships, worldwide knowledge, and cross-cultural experiences. They see English not as a subject to study, but as a tool to unlock the life they truly deserve. The choice is completely yours. And it's a choice you must make right now, in this moment. Will you join the 98% who study English forever, but never become truly confident speakers? Or will you join the 2% who speak their way to fluency and use English to unlock opportunities that will transform their entire future? Your English journey doesn't start tomorrow or next week or when you feel more prepared. Your English journey starts the exact moment you decide to stop learning like everyone else and start speaking like the confident, authentic person you were always meant to become. If this video opened your eyes to possibilities you never considered, if it made you feel something powerful stirring inside your chest, if it showed you that fluency is achievable through a different approach, then don't keep this revelation to yourself. Comment below right now. I choose to speak like the 2%. Share this video with someone who needs to break free from traditional English learning methods that keep people trapped in intermediate purgatory forever. Subscribe to this channel because this is not just content. This is your community, your family, your support system for achieving real English breakthrough. And remember this truth that will carry you through every challenge. You're not behind schedule. You're not too old to improve. You're not hopeless or lacking talent. You're just one powerful decision away from becoming the confident English speaker you were always meant to be. Welcome to your 2% life. Welcome to your English freedom. Welcome to the beginning of your transformation. Welcome home.